This is a movie about a pool party that captured the nation's imagination.
Okay.
It's about a man with special needs trying to navigate the educational system. But mostly it's about the bad choices, psychological trauma, and dirtbags that women have to go through in order to just give up and agree to date a guy who wears a bow tie to work.
All right.
So it starts off, it's very 80s. It starts off at the mall. So Phoebe Cates and Jennifer Jason Leigh work at the mall. Meanwhile, there's this nice guy who also works at the mall, and his name is, I guess, Rat, and Rat likes Jennifer Jason Leigh. He actually tells his friend Damone, I'm in love with this girl. And Damone is this guy who's just trying to act cool all the time. And he's like, hey, man, you got to give her the attitude. This guy's very cool. He's like, you got to give her the attitude, which is like, you don't care about her. Girls love that. Judge Reinhold also goes to the high school. He works at a fast food place, but he loves his job. His girlfriend works there. He's got a great car. He's like a really upbeat guy. And then, of course, Sean Penn is in the movie as this like surfer guy who he's so stoned all the time. He doesn't know what's going on. And he's always showing up late to class. And there's this guy named Mr. Hand. He's just like a stickler for the rules.
Okay.
And so he's just like the original stoner guy. There's a point at the end of the movie where he's smoking something, and Eric Stoltz is his friend. And then he said, what's in this? And he tells him, and he says, doesn't that cause brain damage? And he's like, well, only if you smoke it every day. And he's like, okay, cool.
Is this the prequel to I Am Sam?
This feels like this is how he got retired. In this movie, he's making the exact same face that he made in I Am Sam. But we do sort of see everything go wrong for the Judge Reinhold character, because he's like this happy guy. That he loves his fast food job. He's got a girlfriend. But then he gets fired from his fast food job. And then right then his girlfriend dumps him. And then he has to get a job he hates where he has to dress up like a pirate. And so he's at his lowest point.
Okay.
So now, the famous pool scene. Judge Reinhold is Jennifer Jason Leigh's brother. And at their house, they have a pool. So Jennifer Jason Leigh is hanging out with her best friend, Phoebe Cates. And then Rat and Damone show up. And then they're like, hey, you mind if we hang out at your pool? And they let him in. So then Judge Reinhold shows up. And he's wearing his pirate uniform. And he's just like depressed. And he's like, oh, hey, you got your friends over. And then he says something funny. He says, I've got some important work to do inside. And he goes inside. And then he's in the bathroom, and he opens the little window, and he looks out, and he sees Phoebe Cates sitting on the diving board. And this is the famous scene where then Phoebe Cates gets out of the pool, and it's shot very sexy, and she opens her top. And this is the most famous boob reveal of the 1980s. And everyone remembers how sexy Phoebe Cates is in this. What no one remembers is that this whole scene didn't happen in the movie. This happens in the mind of Judge Reinhold while he's jerking off. So he's in the bathroom jerking off. So we keep cutting back to him jerking off. Everyone just forgot about that. They're like, remember, you know that hot scene in Fast Times? Yeah, that's the scene in the head of Judge Reinhold jerking off. If you jerked off to that scene, you're jerking off to Judge Reinhold jerking off. It's a fucking Ouroboros of jerking off. It's a fucking endless cycle of jerk-offs. Like, that didn't happen in the movie. It happened in his fucking head. And I think this is what's so 80s about this movie is before the internet, right? We wouldn't just argue online. We'd go to the mall and we'd see each other in person, right? And back then, and before the internet also, you wouldn't masturbate to pornography. You would jerk off to just whoever was around. You had that human touch. You had to open a window and look at somebody and jerk off to whoever your sister was hanging out with. I mean, thank God it was Phoebe Cates, but he would have done whoever. You know what I mean? You got to jerk off to just the mailman, like whoever. So she takes her tits out. America loved it. Yeah. But then we cut back to the reality. And in the reality of it, it's funny how that's just is totally normal now. And then she has water in her ear, and she says, yeah, there's Q-tips in the bathroom. She opens the door. She walks in on Judge Reinhold jerking off to her.
Oh, God.
So then she goes, ooh, boy, and then she leaves. Maybe if you're Phoebe Cates everywhere you go, that just happens to you.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
She's like, this again. So now Jennifer Jason Leigh's still looking for love, and she actually goes on a date with the nice guy, but he's so timid he never makes a move, even though she throws everything she's got at him. So then she goes with Damone, the guy who acts like he doesn't care about anything, right? So then he goes over to her house, and she's like, hey, do you want to go swim in my pool? And they go out to the pool house, and they take their clothes off, and this guy comes immediately.
What?
As soon as he comes, he goes, I gotta go.
Oh.
And she's like, oh, okay, sorry. So now she's had an older guy who used her.
Yeah.
This guy who came in 2 seconds. It starts to make you think maybe his whole attitude of being the coolest guy in the room was just so nothing would set off his hair trigger. He's like, just be cool, baby. Act like you don't give a crap. If any said movements, and I'm gonna come. Like, maybe every guy who acts cool is just trying not to come. The Fonz is like, hey, don't move. Hey, yeah, he comes in her immediately, and she gets pregnant.
Oh, no.
So then she goes back. Now he's doing his ticket scalper thing. She goes and finds him at the high school, and she says, I'm pregnant. And then, so he agrees to go halvesies on the abortion, and he'll pick her up. And then he doesn't pick her up.
What the fuck?
Yes. But then Judge Reinhold figures out what's going on, and he picks her up from the clinic. And he's like, your secret's safe with me. And she's like, you're a great brother. And then they're back at the mall pizzeria. She's like, I think I'm done going into the woods with strange men.
That's great.
I think I should go for a nice guy. Like that jackass who works over there at the movie theater. Like, she gives him a second chance. She's like, hey, you. And he's like, me? And he comes over and she kisses him. She gives him a picture. Okay. And now, even though he's incapable of making the first move, she's just going to go with that guy. So then the last scene of the movie, Judge Reinhold is working at like a convenience store. And Sean Penn comes in to buy something, and he doesn't have any money, and then he has to use the bathroom. And right then, robbers come in. The guy with a gun comes in. He's like, give me all the money. And he's like freaking out, and he's like, give me the money. And then Spicoli comes out of the bathroom and distracts him. He takes hot coffee, pours it in the guy's face, and like he gets the gun, and he's like, motherfucker, freeze.
What?
Like, he saves the day. Judge Reinhold, like, all of a sudden is an action hero at the end of this movie, which makes no sense.
Yeah.
Unless... Here's my theory.
Okay.
There was a TV show called Saint Elsewhere.
Okay.
It was one of the first, like, dramas about a hospital. Denzel Washington was in it.
Oh.
And at the end of the show, it turns out the whole TV show had happened inside the mind of an autistic boy staring at a snow globe.
What?
He invented the whole show in his head.
Oh.
As, like, his fantasy. So my theory is, I think that Judge Reinhold never stopped jerking off. I think he's still in the pool room. He's still in the bathroom.
Yeah.
The whole second half of this movie happens inside the fantasy of Judge Reinhold jerking off. Because for one thing, if the person you're masturbating to walks in, appears while you're thinking about them, you're not going to stop. You're never going to stop masturbating. You're going to be like, holy shit, I have the ability to manifest the people. He's like, whoever I jerk off about walks in the room. Like, that's amazing. So the first half of the movie, Judge Reinhold's got a great life, right? And then his life starts to suck, and he's depressed. And then he starts jerking off. And then all of a sudden, in the movie, he becomes a great guy. Because we're seeing his fantasy getting weirder and weirder, right? She walks in on him, she leaves, he keeps jerking off, and he's like, yeah, and then my sister gets an abortion. But then I'm a great guy, and I pick her up. And we have a heart-to-heart. I'm a good guy. Fuck, I'm such a good guy. And then I'm just like a pirate, and then I get humiliated. Fuck. And then I stop a robbery. I'm such a good guy. Fucking Spicoli learns to read or whatever. Yeah, it's all just happening. Maybe his jerk off was so powerful, it took over space and time. And maybe even things before that scene also were happening in the reality of his jerk off. Because there is a whole subplot where someone named Mr. Hand is trying to get a hold of an idiot that won't do what he wants him to.
Oh, shit.
He's like, would you just fucking get over here? Why won't you learn? Oh, Mr. Hand's going to teach you. I think we might be in Judge's jerk off right now. The past was doing its best.
That's the theme song.
Leave him alone. Leave him alone. Leave them alone. They were doing their best.